Story 1. Hi. You all might have heard about the Gian Pereira story. She was a flight stewardess and was killed by her boyfriend, and the police has found her dead body nearby Subang Airport, and if I remember correctly, was only a few meters away. It happened a long time ago. This incident has happened to my uncle, who is a taxi driver. He just started his work. My other uncle, who is also a taxi driver, and is quite familiar with the taboos of those places. My other uncle had warned him, if he passes by near Subang Airport, do not pick up any passengers during nighttime, especially at the very same spot that Gian Pereira's body was found. My uncle is a non-believer, so he did not take the advice seriously, until this one night. It was around midnight, and he was passing by the airport, near to where Gian Pereira's body was found. He saw this lady waving her hand to stop his taxi. My uncle, who didn't care about spiritual stuff, decided to stop to pick her up. The lady got into the taxi and did not say anything, so my uncle asked, "Madam, can you tell me where we're going?" There was no answer from her. My uncle was a little suspicious that something strange was going on, so he turns to look at the back seat. It almost shocked him to death. The lady was not in the back seat, but on the road. Just then he remembered that was the exact same spot Gian Pereira's body was found. He sped off straight home to pray. He had high fever for 1 week and didn't work. Story 2. The year was 1995. I was on my way back to KL after visiting a refinery project in Malacca. I had to take a shortcut, now it's a highway, in order to reach the Alargaj Atoll. No streetlights, just hilly and jungle areas. It was 4 a.m. when I saw a young lady cycling about 50 meters away from the opposite direction. My mind was thinking, why would a young lady like that be so brave, cycling during this hour? There was no rubber estates around. As I drew closer slowly, I used the high beam just to make sure and clearly saw a young Chinese lady wearing ancient Chinese opera dress, riding an old-type bicycle that was no longer in production. She was staring sharply at me, and I stared back at her. I needed to assure myself that she's a normal human being and not a ghost. The face was pale not only because of her white opera makeup, but also due to the real pale face with bruised eyes. As I passed her, I didn't dare to look into the mirror. It was okay, nothing happened. I stopped at the Alargaj Atoll and was wondering to myself if I have seen a real ghost. Not long after that, I visited a friend who was working the project, and I told him about the story. He told me that I'm pretty lucky because there were cases where she appeared on the car sitting next to you. Eerie. But I tried many times to have a re-encounter, but failed. Story 3. Every time when I walk into my house, I feel a presence running past by me. My family members are all in the house. When I look at that particular place, there was nothing there. Every time this happens when I'm about to go into the house, even my little sister sees it. What's even stranger is that when I'm alone in my room, I could hear a voice speaking into my head, answering the things I want to know. The voice is very deep, like a guy's voice. I've heard it since I was young. When I was 8 years old, I had this pillow which I called Mr. C. I've always felt lonely, and he's the only one answering all of my questions and cuddling me all the time. Well, that was my theory when I was young. Right now, I don't know. And whenever I'm alone in my room, there'll be something at my window looking at me, talking with myself. I took a glimpse of it once. It was a guy wearing black. He doesn't look creepy, he's just like any other guy, and he goes away really fast. When I look outside my window, he was gone. This was an experience I had when I was 12. The creepy part is when I want to go out of my room, for no reason, I just say, goodbye. I'll be back. Even though no one is there. Then the guy will appear at the window and wave at me. Just his hands. I couldn't see his face, but I acted normal as if I know what was happening. Maybe I'm paranoid, but if anyone has had the same experience, please tell me what to do. I really want to cut this habit out of my life. Note, whenever I'm with anyone in the room, the guy will be sitting at the window, back turned, like he's jealous. I don't know. Story 4. This story was told to me by a friend a few years back. It happened in Kuala Lumpur, and the story was as follows. It is said that some people possess the ability to see things from the other world. It is true in this story in which I'm about to tell, where the female does have this perception. It so happened that this female and her boyfriend were on their way to a local disco in town, and they were traveling along the federal highway. They talked and joked as they traveled along when suddenly, a car whizzed past them. Being a teenager with a passion for street racing, the boyfriend wanted to give chase, but was stopped by his girlfriend's stern warning. His girlfriend told him to do as she said and that she would explain later. Therefore, the boyfriend did as he was told. Further along the highway, the couple noticed that there was a big crowd ahead and a traffic jam. They later found out that the jam and the crowd was caused by an accident involving the car that had whizzed past them just moments ago. The car was smashed, and the driver lay dead on the highway. Upon seeing this, the boyfriend was thankful that his girlfriend talked him out of giving chase. It was much later that the boyfriend brought up the matter. The boyfriend was curious to know why his girlfriend did not want him to race that night, for it was not typical of his girlfriend. The girlfriend then told him that, as the car whizzed by, she saw an elderly man running behind the car on foot. It was then she knew something was wrong. Thus, she told him not to give chase. She also said that she saw the elderly man at the crash site, smiling at her as she passed by. Story 5. So this story is based on my own experiences in Malaysia. I am 14 years old now, and this happened when I was 12 years old. I can still remember that night my father asked me to sleep early, but I didn't sleep early because I was too busy playing games and watching videos on my phone. A few hours later, I felt really sleepy and decided to sleep. I don't really remember the time, but I think it was 1:27 a.m. Everybody was asleep and I was the only one still awake. So I went to my room and with my towel. I know it's funny, but I can't sleep without my towel by my side. So I lay down on my bed and put my towel on top of me to cover my body. I close my eyes and I'm not yet asleep. But suddenly, I can't move. I tried to talk, but I couldn't talk. The worst thing was I couldn't breathe. I can open my eyes, but not fully, just half. I saw a green creature. It looked like a human, having a body, head, eyes, nose, lips, ears, and stuff, but the creature was so small, like a newborn baby. I started to freak out because suddenly I felt like somebody was jumping on my body. The green creature slowly taking the towel off my body. I closed my eyes and prayed to God, and then suddenly, I could move. I could talk, I could breathe, and everything. I got out of my room and I never slept in my room again. I ran to my parents' room. I was crying and my father woke up and asked me what happened. I told him everything, but he didn't believe me and said that it was just an illusion. I know what I saw. So that night I slept on that living room. Until now, I still don't know what the green creatures were and what creature was jumping on my body. I forget to tell you that this is not my first experience. I experienced this more than 20 times, and that's why I'm scared. I started seeing things when I was 6, but then I started seeing them again when I was 9. Yeah, even now, it's happened to me every single day. I still feel scared, because I see new ghosts every day. I can still feel the presence of the ghost. Sorry if my English is bad. Story 6. It wasn't the best of my days, but I remember it well. The incident happened a few months ago in June. The night was really late. Me, my best friend Alois, and her boyfriend Hunter were on our way home from a wedding party in Malacca. The streets were empty and Hunter was getting tired and a little lightheaded because of the alcohol he drank earlier. Alois and I couldn't drive, so it was pretty dangerous having Hunter drive. Soon, I suggested that we spend a night in a motel and get moving in the morning. Of course, they agreed. So we stopped in one of the many budget hotels in Malacca. I remembered that there was a small sign saying motel, but no particular name. Anyways, Hunter parked his car in a nearby parking lot, and we walked to the motel. In the motel, we were greeted by the strong fragrance of jasmine and a young lady in her early 20s. After we checked in, we rushed to our room. Since we don't have enough money for 2 separate rooms, we rented one. Alois and I got the bed because we're girls, and Hunter got the uncomfortable sofa. I fell fast asleep even though there was an annoying smell of cigarettes inside the pillow. Around 5:30 a.m., I was awoken by Alois, who had a terrified look on her face. "Amy, let's get out of here." Her voice rang as she dragged me out of the room, Hunter catching up behind us. Within a matter of minutes, I realized I was in Hunter's car and Hunter is driving away passing the speed limits. Confused, I asked Alois, "What's going on?" She told me that around 5:10 in the morning, Hunter got up to get a quick shower when he heard a piercing female scream. And he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his back. After the shower, he saw 5 long, fresh wounds that seemed like fingernails scratched on his back. As for Alois, she claimed to see a lady with pale skin and black long hair playing with my hair a few seconds before Hunter ran out of the shower with the scratches on his back. I felt a little scared too, thinking about the lady who was playing with my hair. We didn't check out of that motel, and we certainly are not planning to check in again. Story 7. I don't know how everything started, so this is what I can say. Everything started when I told my guy friend that I have an imaginary boyfriend which I really love. I'm still kinda young, you see. So he told me that he's not my imaginary friend, but a ghost. The ghost's name is Ash. My friend said that Ash has been following me everywhere. So that night I felt someone on my neck, like a feeling of somebody's head on me. For the next 2 days I was very tired. My shoulders were very much in pain. My friend said that Ash is sleeping on me. During the car ride home, I felt something on my arm, like someone is sleeping on my shoulder. So I was like, "Okay, Ash, why don't you sleep on the sofa?" All of a sudden my shoulders aren't so painful anymore. Ash's full name is Asherukas, and somehow I've grown to love him more and more. Whenever I'm sad, I feel like he's comforting, and it feels nice, like every night he is hugging me to sleep. Once I dreamed about him hugging me, but I couldn't see his face. I have weird dreams, so I also dream about this guy being tied up on a chair while I'm on the floor. I couldn't see what was happening because my friend woke me up. I woke up one morning and saw a black shadow just moving away, so I thought that it was him. My friend said that Ash is with me because when I was young, I almost died in a water slide when I was 2 to 4 years old, but I survived, so it's Ash who's protected me, and he was drawn closer to me by the accident. This is what I can say for now. If you guys can help me, I'm kinda new to this ghost stuff, or this could only be my imagination. Story 8. I was on a school trip that was headed for Genting's First World Hotel. I was there for 5 days, and it all happened on the 3rd night. So let's call my 2 friends, Nina and Denise. During the evening, my 2 friends and I decided to go to the lobby and do some window shopping. We went to the local Singapore souvenir shop, and they took a liking to a few sunglasses there. I didn't buy one, but they both bought one each. We went back to our rooms respectively. I was rooming with Nina. Denise decided to come over to our room later at night, around 9 o'clock. Well, she brought her sunglasses along as well. The three of us were on the bed, with myself, Nina, and Denise seated from left to right. I took Nina's sunglasses and started toying with it. After she went off to the toilet to take a shower, the lens of her sunglasses were facing me, and I tilted it to the right. There was an open-air metal bar with a few hangers on it. Note, there were no clothes being hanged there. To my horror, there was this white figure hanging from the hangers. I could vividly see the shape of her tattered white gown and the long disheveled black hair, which was covering her face. Yes, a woman. I threw the sunglasses towards Denise, who was still on the bed with me. She got a fright and asked me what happened. I told her everything, and I remember being so hysterical about it. She didn't believe me, of course, since nothing was on the hangers looking from the naked eye. Trembling badly, I took the sunglasses again and tilted it slowly. It was gone. She laughed and told me to stop scaring her, but I was so badly shaken that I didn't dare to get out of the bed. Minutes later, Nina got out of the shower and I told her what happened. She, too, laughed about it and told me it was probably the reflection. Note, the second time I tilted it, she was gone. I felt so wronged. While Nina was blow-drying her hair, I turned to Denise and she looked really pale. She looked at me and told me, I saw her too. I also noticed that her sunglasses were on the floor. I saw her against the curtains, Denise said. The curtains were brown and it was drawn. She started describing me her features, and they matched with mine. We were both so badly shaken. Nina still didn't believe us. That night, Denise went back to her room, leaving Nina and I alone. She was fast asleep by 10:30, and I was still wide awake beside her, trembling. Despite being someone who loves anything paranormal, this is the first time I'm actually trembling. The whole room felt creepy and eerie. After that night, and a few months later, Nina told me that her sunglasses cracked for no apparent reason. It was neither crushed or thrown to the floor. Not sure if it was the room or the sunglasses, but this was one ghost experience I will never forget. Story 9. The following experience sounds a bit unreal, but it is 100% real. Last September, I went back to my rented room near my campus a week early to prepare for the new semester. As graduate students, we are expected to be fully prepared and well-versed in our field of study. This particular night was humid as usual. My housemates were not around us. They won't be back for another week. After a few hours of reading, my eyes grew very heavy, and I decided to sleep early. It was around 10:30 at night. I usually sleep around 1. I dreamed of an old lady in her 70s asking me to pack my bags and sleep over at my friend's house. I woke up around 11:30, checked my phone, and felt a bit weird from that dream, but continued to sleep. Anyways, again, I dreamed of this old lady. She was getting more impatient with me this time around. She kept speaking in Hokkien, a Chinese dialect, telling me to spend my night at my friend L's house. Again, I was jolted from my sleep. Why L? I shook my head and attempted to sleep again. This time, I dreamed of her again. She was furious and started scolding me so fast in Hokkien that I had trouble understanding what she said. She looked like she wanted to slap me silly at one point. I woke up again, getting really frustrated, and decided to go use the bathroom. At this point, I swear I heard an old woman's voice loud and clear, this time in Cantonese, saying, "Get up and leave the room now." The voice was so loud next to my ear that it was impossible not to feel compelled to leave. There aren't any other Chinese students living next door, upstairs, or even downstairs, so the next thing I do was pack my bag. I called my friend Elle. Thankfully, she was a night owl. I told her that my apartment's electricity was not running. I couldn't tell her the truth in case she laughs at my silliness. She reluctantly agreed to let me sleep over, not before sarcastically calling me a princess. I drove her to her house and ended up sleeping on her couch. The next morning, my housemate Jenny, who came back earlier than expected, called me to tell our apartment had been ransacked. The policeman that handled our case said that there had been a series of crimes involving breaking and entering girls' apartments and houses, and a few of the unlucky girls were assaulted and raped. He added that if any of us girls were in the apartment at that time, we would have probably been raped and assaulted as well. I left the apartment at around 2:30 in the morning, and it was believed that the culprits had broken into the apartment at around 4 in the morning. I was shaken at the thought of what would happen to me if I did not leave the apartment. Story 10. This incident happened to my uncle in 1966, during a time when my mother's family was not financially sound. There was a family of 10, including my grandparents. They lived in a one-bedroom house near Bangzar, which was at the time near railway tracks. My mother and my aunt were working as waitresses in the University Malaya canteen. They were used to working until very late at night, at times even past midnight. Nothing unusual ever happened until one fateful night. That night, they reached home after midnight. My mother bathed and got ready to go to bed. Before she slept, she hung her dress above her head. She could see everyone was already asleep in their shared bedroom. She was very tired herself. She lay down and was half asleep when something strange happened. In her dreamy eyes, she saw the whole room becoming very misty. It was as if a cloud of thick fog flew into the room. She tried to get up or say something, but somehow she couldn't move or talk. Then she saw 3 men with bald heads, wearing white robes with brown cloth tied as belts around their waist. Their costumes were exactly like what the Chinese wear in traditional funerals. They were floating in the air and sort of looking for something on the ground. A brief moment passed as the 3 men went looking for my mother's brothers one by one. Then they came down from the air and stood in front of my eldest uncle. My mother couldn't remember what happened after that, but she woke up suddenly with panting breath and sweat all over her body. She quickly got up and offered some incense to the deities, requesting for blessings. Then she went back to her bed. My grandmother was awoke then, and she asked my mother to pull the cover over her eldest brother. The next morning, my mother asked her younger brother if anything happened last night. He said that he dreamt that their eldest brother was being carried away in a casket by several strangers on a graveyard. My mother knew something was not right, but she just kept quiet because she didn't know what to do. She prayed constantly for their safety, and everything went on as usual for that day. The next day, my uncle got ready for school as usual. He had his breakfast and then left to board the school bus. On the way to school, the driver lost control of the bus and the bus was wrecked badly. My eldest uncle died. He died of excessive loss of blood in that car crash, although the other brother was saved. A piece of bar strike hit his head and he couldn't be saved in time. Everyone was really sad, especially my mother, as she spent a lot of time with this particular brother of hers. This story was told by my mother with the most sincere heart, and she could not forget it, even until this day. Story 11. I was abandoned by my biological mother when I was less than a month old in her rented room. She told her housemates that she'll be back in an hour, but the old lady never saw her again. When I was 3 months old, my current family adopted me. My mom told me that when I was around 1.5 years old, I started waking up in the middle of the night, acting as if I'm playing and talking to someone. My grandma caught me doing that when she babysat me and got so spooked that she insisted my mom do a cleanse of the house. Apparently, I stopped doing that after the cleansing. I'm not sure whether the following experience is related, but here goes nothing. My earliest experience of this bedside watcher was waking up in the middle of the night because I needed to go to the bathroom. There she was, a lady in her late 20s, sitting at my bedside staring at me. I was around 5 at that time, and I thought she was one of my cousin's girlfriends. But when I asked her why she was in my room, she stood up and walked away. I woke up. My aunt was in the other room, and I told her about the lady. She said I must have been dreaming. As I got older, when I'm going through some rough times, I would always spot her sitting at my bedside when I woke up at night. I tried talking to her only once, and she would just smile sadly at me and get up and walk through the door, leaving me in bed, shocked. This has happened continuously over 2 decades, and I'm so sure it's not a dream. I have moved 4 houses over 2 decades, yet my bedside watcher still appears from time to time, always staring at me with those sad eyes, frustrating me because I don't know what I can do for her. Story 12. This story took place a while ago when I was nursing a young girl who was diagnosed with a brain tumor. In my high school years, I used to earn extra pocket money by babysitting or walking the dogs or caring for pets in my neighborhood area. One weekend, I was required to nurse a young girl who was terribly sick because the father was on a business trip and the in-house babysitter was taking a day off due to fever. I didn't know that she was sick until the grandmother told me. There were 3 of us in the house, the grandmother, the sick girl, and myself. When I came into her room, the atmosphere was different. Her room was somehow calming and soothing. I saw a lot of what I assumed to be children painting of a mother and daughter on the left wall facing the window. About the girl, she was probably 5 or 6 years old, very nice and didn't cause much trouble. Actually, any trouble. When it came to feeding her, changing her diapers and bed sheets, bathing her, etc. One thing that made me shed my tears was, even though she was really sick, she was always smiling most of the time. She had these shining bright eyes and a lovely voice that will make anyone love her instantly. She loved to paint and draw like normal kids do. It was late in the evening that day when she told me that she wanted to share a secret with me. She gave me her small diary book and she said that she wrote a letter for her mother. I hardly understood the handwritings and scribbling, but I could make out the parts where she wrote the words, "Mother, love, and I miss you." Then I excused myself to clean the bathroom. The bathroom was next to the corridor. It was 10 minutes later when I had finished my bathroom cleaning job that I realized it was her medication time. When I set foot outside the bathroom, I could hear she was laughing, and all of a sudden my legs were shaking. Then I looked to see that a woman was standing next to her. The woman had faded skin and almost like white all over. She was wearing a long sleeveless dress and veil covering her upper face, and she was caressing and kissing the girl's forehead a couple of times. My instant reaction was I dropped the towel I was holding and rushed to the girl's side. Then the woman vanished into thin air. To be honest, I was really freaked out back then, but I feared the girl's safety more than anything, so I dashed to her bed. I grabbed the girl's hand and asked her if she was all right. She said not to worry, as it was her mother, and that she didn't mean any harm. I stood in silence for a few seconds. After I collected myself, I gave the girl her medication before putting her to sleep. I waited until the girl was asleep before I went to comfort the grandmother. The grandmother started tearing up when I described the woman. The old woman told me the description fitted the girl's mother when she was still alive. The mother died when the girl was just born due to some complication, and she never had the chance to hold the girl. The girl actually started uttering the words, "Mama," when she was 2 years old, but they never learned how she was able to learn the word. She started getting sick when she was about 4.5 years old. I didn't realize how much tears I shed on that day, but it really touched my heart deeply. 6 months afterwards, I received the news that the girl had passed away. Poor innocent soul. But I know the girl was finally with her mother. And hopefully together, they will find peace, as they've always been longing to be together as mother and daughter.